In most cases, I go to work by taxi because it is faster and more time-saving. I mean, taking a taxi, I can go directly to my destination, and also there are many apps that we can use to call a taxi online, so we can just wait at home instead of standing on the street waiting for a taxi. Well, I suppose the private car is the most popular means of transport because, I can see that almost every day, every moment, there are loads of private cars on the street, especially in rush hour. Besides, with a higher living standard, more and more families can afford them now. It's about 10 kilometers from my home to my workplace, but since this route covers a couple of main streets in my city, I usually get stuck in a traffic jam when I commute. And it roughly takes me about 40 minutes to get there every day. I wouldn't say that people will drive more in the future because this means of transport is not eco-friendly, but now with the continuous development of technology, there are some other forms of cars like hybrid or electric cars which are more environmental friendly.
Today we're going to talk about transport, and the first question is, how do you go to work? Well, actually by foot, it's like only about 15 minutes walk because I haven't got my driver lessons yet. I wish I could get my lessons as soon as possible so that I could drive to work. The second question is, what's the most popular means of transportation in your hometown? Well, actually bus, because my hometown is a small city and the population density is not that high. So actually we don't need a tram or metro. So bus is fair enough for our everyday life. Do you think people will drive more in the future? No, not really. I don't think so. I guess nowadays, an increasing number of people are more conscious about the carbon footprints, so they might choose to take public transportation rather than driving their private vehicles in order to contribute to the sustainability of the environment.
What's the most popular means of transportation in your hometown?
In my hometown, the most popular means of transportation is undoubtedly cars. Public transportation is available but not as extensively used, especially for short-distance trips within the city.
How often do you take bus?
I take buses occasionally, primarily for specific purposes like commuting to work or when I'm traveling to places where public transportation is more convenient than driving. However, my frequency of bus usage is not very high as I often prefer other modes of transportation for their convenience and speed.
Can you compare the advantages of planes and trains?
Certainly, planes and trains each have their own advantages. Planes are typically much faster than trains, making them ideal for long-distance travel, especially for international trips. Also, planes can reach destinations that are not easily accessible by trains, such as overseas destinations. In comparison, trains are generally more environmentally friendly, emitting fewer greenhouse gases per passenger mile compared to planes.
Is driving to work popular in your country?
Yes, driving to work is a popular mode of commuting in my country. Many people rely on personal vehicles such as cars and motorcycles to get to work. This is especially common in areas with limited or less efficient public transportations.
What kind of public transportation do you usually take? Personally, for me, I usually take shared bicycles. If it is within walking distance, I would rather walk. However, if I'm going to take bicycles so that I could get there within like 15 minutes, and when the other alternative is to take the bus or the subway, however, it's going to take me for like 20 minutes, I would rather choose bicycles. And if it exceeds 15 minutes, then I would call a taxi. So yeah, the most commonly used public transportation for me personally is shared bicycles. So the second question is, when do you usually take public transportation? In your everyday life or when you are traveling? Well, basically, if I'm traveling to somewhere quite far away from my home, it can be very exhausting for me to drive there. So during my trip in another city, I would rather choose the public transportation because I don't have my own car. And if it's summer days, then maybe I would prefer tour bus so that I could also have a good look at the city. However, in my everyday life, when I go to work, I would actually walk because I would definitely choose somewhere within walking distance to my workplace. Besides, if I'm going to hang out with my friends, I would just rather drive. Yeah. Okay, so the third question is, do most people prefer public transportation in your country? I think in general, yes, people prefer public transportation. I guess because in China, the tickets for public transportation, like bus tickets or subways, is relatively cheaper than other countries' commuting fees. And most importantly, especially during the peak times, it's more efficient for you to travel by subway because for metro lines, there won't be any traffic jams. Still, it can be quite crowded, by the way. And there are also specifically designed bus lines so that they could travel faster. So yeah, I think in general, Chinese people prefer to travel by public transportation. And the last one would be, did you take public transportation when you were a kid? Well, honestly speaking, I actually hardly took public transportation when I was a kid because when I was in primary school, my parents usually drove me to school, then they would pick me up in the evening because I was too young at that time and they were worried about me. So yeah, however, after I entered middle school, my home is quite close to my school, so I can just went to school on foot. So when I was a kid, I hardly take public transportation.